lighthearted. That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, is how we share our light. I believe we have a superpower. Do you know what that is? I know we've talked about a lot of the faculties and the powers, the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore identified here, but I'm going to talk about what I believe today is our greatest superpower. And I have an example of that this week in my life. I believe that anyone that's able to share their light with us, they have a superpower. I spent an hour or two with Matt Wells. He's upstairs, I see, this morning. And I tell you what, if you could spend time with Matt, and you're not a foot up off the ground by the time he finishes with you, you just haven't been paying attention. He's one of those people that's an example of sharing his light and uplifting anyone that comes across his path. So I believe our greatest power lies in our ability to demonstrate to others the path toward the light. So how does that work? That's the power of sharing our light everywhere you go and leaving traces, glimmers of that light all along the way. I thought that was tight on my neck. I wonder if I could put it backwards. I think that's what people felt when they were in the presence of Jesus, don't you? That all they had to do was to be in his presence to be healed of whatever it was that ailed them. All they had to do was be in his presence. And that's why the great ones who have lived, those that we hear about, have had tremendous followings. People have only wanted to be in their sphere of light because it feels good, doesn't it? Now we're all downhearted at different times because we all have had our share of pain. We know that. But doesn't it feel wonderful to be with someone who's lighthearted and joyful and uplifting? Let's think of a very big, dark room, if you will, filled with unlit candles. Think of that for a moment. Really, really, really big, dark room. It's dark. It's scary. There's no sense of direction or hope. And then one lone candle is lit. And the entire space lights up. Imagine. One candle. From one candle, we can all see. The room is filled with hope and light, where before there was only darkness. There's no arguing or discussing of who's right, who's wrong, only basking in this beautiful light. And that's how powerful light truly is. Candles closest to the lit candle are now affected by that light. So many more, so many others in the darkness or in the distance. The light then begins to spread, maybe slowly. Then another candle connects with the first candle and lights up. And the next thing you know, the room is brightly lit. All the candles glowing, sharing. And that, my friends, is how positive intent starts infinite chain reactions that can eventually transform the world. Now you know how it feels. be in a place where there's only doom and gloom, and everybody's sharing how this is wrong and that's wrong and the other, and it's all going to heck in a handbasket? We know how that feels. It feels terrible, doesn't it? It feels terrible. And we have had a lot of that going on this past year. And it feels just terrible. So we want to share our light as much as possible so we can light the world not only for ourselves, but for those that are coming behind us. And 2,000 years ago, a man said, "You're the light of the world." And when Jesus uttered those words, he did so with the knowledge that we have an unlimited source of light. Unlimited. The light of God, love, source, creator. We're each imbued with the ability to sense and embody the source of light. And, like a burning candle, each of us can touch untold numbers of others without it affecting the quality of our own light. We can just share wherever we go. So we never have to fear that lighting the path for another will deplete our own light. It never will. Never. So as we go about with our light directly from the source, we know it's unlimited, it's eternal, and when we allow God's light to shine freely, unconditionally, we also become the light of the world. So in that way, we don't want to have weak, anemic prayers, do we? Let's be bold. Let's recognize that we have a source. And Jesus told us that. We can believe that. You embody the light. He told us that. So let us instead consciously connect with the presence to remember who we are, whose we are, and for whom we glow. And just as a candle spreads in a darkened room, people who are living in spirit give off a higher energy than others, don't they? So give off a higher energy so you can be a light to others. Make that your goal. Always. There's a man that said when attending a conference, he returned to his hotel room one evening. The overhead light was out, outside his door. He could hardly find the keyhole to get in. As he opened the door, turned on the switch, the light didn't come on. He tried to remember where the lamp was beside the bed, stumbled over there finally, feeling his way, turned on the switch, it didn't work. Have you ever been in a room like that, a motel room? I think we all have. And then he thought he remembered a light on a desk, and he stumbled over there and turned the light on, and then all of a sudden the light's on, and he can see clearly every corner of the room. He said he just finally made a note that how important light was, how incredibly important light is in this world. I remember reading about a man that had lost his eyesight, but there was an interesting thing that had happened. He said that he discovered an inner light. Now, he had lost his eyesight. He had discovered an inner light that allowed him to make his way around not only his home, but the world. Isn't that incredible? You wouldn't even think that were possible. but it is. So I also read a note from a woman in Mexico City who said this about the darkness around her. She said, "Yesterday I bought a Christmas decoration. It's a plastic star, maybe 18 inches across, strung with small white and gold Christmas lights. She said, I hung it in my Christmas window last night, and I was just amazed how it felt to be adding light to the world." She said that she lived in public housing in an obscure neighborhood, and there was hardly any light anywhere to be shared. But suddenly, she felt like she had the light of the Christ right there in her little window with that plastic star, and she was shining and glimmering for all to see. And I remember after Katrina, and I've shared with you before, some of you may not have been here, how our neighbor across the street, we were the only ones on the street that had the ability to even live there, because we had upstairs. He was in his upstairs of his apartment building, and we were at the upstairs of our house that was being rebuilt downstairs, and we just recognized how fortunate we were to even have an upstairs where we could live. His name was Maurice, and he was a wonderful gentleman, and he told me one day, he said, "Judy, keep that light on upstairs. Don't turn it out, please. That light is so important to me. Don't turn out that light." And I still think of that today. He left this world a few years ago, but I still remember his light. And he kept the light on for us, and we kept one on for him. And it was a tragically dark time where we all needed light, didn't we? We certainly needed light to share with others. So the woman in Mexico City sharing her light, if we all did that, what a difference it would make in the world if we shared our light. And we're just frequently unaware of just how important that light is, that we might share with another. It may just be a smile. Your eyes may light up if you have a mask on. But you know something that's interesting, and you know this is true, that even with the mask on, we can see if someone's smiling, can't we? Because we can see their eyes are smiling. You can see that smile regardless. It's a smile. Even if you have a mask on, smile especially if you have a mask on. Well, our light is always there, burning brilliantly within us. We can hide it from ourselves and others if we choose to do so. How do we do that? Well, we can place it under a bushel basket of anger, resentment, worry, bitterness, unforgiveness, or anxiety. Those are sure ways to hide your light, aren't they? They certainly are. I've known people who were some of the best people in the world. I knew they were. But they had some bitterness about them, some unforgiveness, some resentment. And I so prayed for them that they could let that go and share their lives with the world instead of their bitterness or their anger or their unwillingness to forgive and move on. We've all known people like that, haven't we? We say a special prayer for them. There's a great story from Abraham Lincoln in the anxious days of the American Civil War. There was a delegation of well-meaning patriots who tried to impress upon him the gravity of the war. They thought he just didn't get it. I think he got it more than anybody. They implied that the administration was neither as wise nor as good as it ought to be. He listened carefully, and he responded with a little story. He told them that he had once had a neighbor who found himself in a tight situation. The neighbor was traveling home one dark and rainy night. There were few bridges in the country, and the man came to a stream that we'd have to ford. He'd have to get across if he were going to make it home. But because of the darkness and the rain, he couldn't see well enough to know just where he could cross. But lightning flashed, and he saw his way for the briefest moment. The man was perplexed, though, because there seemed to be more thunder than lightning. He was convinced that every lightning flash was followed by several loud peals of thunder. The poor man just stood at the edge of the stream in his confusion about how to proceed. He finally prayed, "Oh Lord, if it's just the same to you, give me a little more light and less noise." So this delegation that had come to the president, Abraham Lincoln, got the point that the president needed more solutions and less complaining, more light and less noise. What do you think about the world these days? Is any noise going on that you can tell? Well, I'm going to convince you just a little bit to share a little bit more of your light and a lot less noise. Okay? You see, that's how every peace movement really works, is to bring more light into the world. That's why people like Gandhi had so many followers. It's why the people like Jesus, and there have been very, very few, and we've heard of Krishna, Lao Tse, who are the people of whom you might say, "I can touch the hem of your garment, and I am healed," because you have just that much light within you. You're able to hold the light so that others may heal just by being in your very presence. I'd like to be one of those people. I aspire to be that. More light and less noise. More light and less noise. And we certainly know that Abraham Lincoln was that, wasn't he? He brought more light into the world at a very, very, very dark and troubling time in this country. He brought more light. Many people have into this world. And I think each of you being here today have already shown that that's what you want to do with your life. Now, I've seen a lot of people this week that will be just as glad when they pack up their noise and take it with them. And I wish them more light. I surely do. But now, I don't know, maybe I'm just a fuddy-duddy, I'm not sure. You might call me a lot of different things, but all these burnouts and burning all that good rubber and throwing all that exhaust in the air, come on. Come on now, maybe that's your favorite practice, I don't know. Were you out there doing that, JR, maybe? No, he wasn't, was he? Okay, his family is saying no.
Blowing off steam.
Blowing off steam, is that what it is? Oh my goodness. Oh boy, the bigger the boys, the bigger the toys, huh? Just haven't grown up yet, and that's okay. They're enjoying that. They're enjoying the things that they collect, and that's fine. We just don't want to add to the noise in the world. There's certainly plenty. You know what? At some point in our journey with the light, we realize that the light is actually shining from the temple of our hearts. And we may have begun this way with our hands open, receiving the light. And we may still do that as we ask for healing light for ourselves, that we may share it with ourselves, or others, with the world. And we do that. But we also recognize that we have a light to share with the world, and that comes from the temple of the heart, and to keep our intention pure. We need to look at our intention carefully. I will share my light with the world because I want to make the world a better place, and I watch my intention. I want my intention to remain pure. Just that. I want to share my life with the world. So our job is not to convert others based upon the way the world's going these days. I'm not certain we could anyway, because many won't listen. Our primary job is to transform ourselves and transform ourselves into the highest we can become while we're still on this earth. And as each of us finds peace in our own heart, we begin to radiate that out, a light that warms and heals everyone we contact. This is the way of a planetary healer. You and I are among the chosen. The chosen are those who choose themselves to be peaceful. Like Abraham Lincoln, let us pray. Have more light and less noise. Now just pray that you will go out into the world this week and be a light. Remind yourself